Game day on the Real Kyper and Stellick show. Justin Bourne out on assignment. I don't know. That's the best I've got,
Okay.
is out on assignment. But you're here, I'm here, Sammy's here, Derek Brandeo's in, Jake the Snake Schultz, and we're good for the next 2 hours. So welcome him in, the lovely, the talented. Put your hands together for the lovely Gord Stellick.
Well, am I blushing? Am I blushing? Woo. Now, I got to say, one thing is, this show just starts. Like, you don't have a floor director. Like, normally when it's a TV thing, it goes 10, 9, 8, all that stuff.
Those days are
I'm just
over.
sitting back and I see our names fonted. I go, we're starting.
I could do it. Like, next break, I can go behind the thing and go 5.
Okay, that used to be a big deal, right? That used to be a big deal.
I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I do know we are live on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus Gordo.
That's a lot of Sportsnet.
It's a lot of Sportsnet. 7 games on tap, including what we believe is still called the Battle of Ontario. And it just seems, Gord, that we've wanted this back for a long time, and we've had signs that it could get back to something as greasy and ugly sometimes as we saw over the years with someone by the name of Darcy Tucker involved.
Travis Green.
But then,
take it on the whole bench.
Then Ottawa would
Travis Green.
Yeah.
Travis, and then we'd find out that Ottawa still kind of stinks and that it's not as great as we wanted it to be. But lo and behold, tonight, could Ottawa really make us believe tonight, if they've got some fight in them, to show that they've narrowed the gap?
Now, did you see Travis Green and Steve Staios last night?
I did, yes.
Yeah. So it's funny, at the Hall of Fame induction, and then there was Jason Spezza. He's always smiling, but he wasn't smiling an hour later when they were down 6-0 after one.
Yes.
So anyway, just seeing all these people. So, yeah, the Battle of Ontario, no, it's bogus. It doesn't exist. It existed. It's up to Ottawa to make it happen again. Like the Battle of Florida, they kept talking. It never happened until the last year or two when the Florida Panthers got their act together. So right now, it is a have and have not battle. And I love the Ottawa organization. I love so many things about the team. But they Buffalo, Detroit, have to punch through and get themselves back to be a relevant team when it comes to the playoffs. They're still not.
Sammy.
Where do they rank on the list of Leafs rivals right now? Like, they're behind Boston, clearly, behind Tampa. I would say behind Florida.
Based on Saturday night, they're well ahead of the Montreal Canadiens.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's that. I think.
No, but hold on. No. Kippy, it's to Sam's question. Let's put all the home games in. Okay, like pretend we got a season ticket package. And when we go off, what game do you want? And that decides the rivalry. Okay,
Yeah.
and to me, Montreal would still be up there.
Yeah.
And I think and then you got, I don't know, at the end you got Utah. I don't know.
I think you would say that their Jets have been bigger rivals to the Leafs in the last little while. The Oilers have been bigger rivals to the Leafs in the last little while, even than the Senators have been.
No, Boston, Tampa Bay.
But more than Ottawa, even Edmonton and Winnipeg is what I'm getting at. I just think that it used to be so good. When I was a kid,
Yes.
it was the number one rivalry, the team I hated the most. And like you said, they've just stunk forever, and they've never been good at the same time. For the last, 15 years, it hasn't been good. And maybe this year, with them getting better, it could take a step.
Maybe tonight. And I know that.
Well, that's the game's not even on our network. Sounds like you're really plugging it. Like, you got to watch tonight. Like, this is holy mackerel. Like, cancel your plans. Nick Kypreos says this is the watershed regular season game.
Maybe I'm overemphasizing.
I was going to get a pedicure. I'm going to cancel my plans now.
Maybe I'm overemphasizing tonight for Ottawa, but that's based on being so underwhelmed by the Montreal Canadiens Saturday night. I thought they had zero fight.
Yeah.
And I just think with Brady Tkachuk, that there's a chance that they look at this as a real window of opportunity to show people that they should be closer to Florida, Tampa, and Toronto than they are Detroit and
Montreal.
Yes.
Montreal.
Yeah.
And Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, and that also applies to Buffalo, Detroit, but let's stick to Ottawa. It's up to one of those teams. Like, Buffalo missed an opportunity. They win yesterday, and they're in the playoffs today. That's where you got to start. So anyway, right now the Atlantic Division still is the have and the have not. So to your point, Kyper, you're right. Like a big win in Toronto, because Sammy, I love that time. Like I'm pulling for Ottawa. That Toronto-Ottawa rivalry was fantastic, and it was also, unfortunately, it's come back to bite the Leafs in the ass the other way, that Ottawa owned the Maple Leafs in the regular season, and the Leafs killed them in the playoffs all the time. And we've got a Toronto team right now that does great in the regular season, and Boston, whoever, always seems to have their number in the playoffs. So we're kind of going through that in Toronto. So Ottawa, I would love it. I would love it. But right now, it is not a battle of Ontario.
Okay.
So even with Ridley Gregg getting cross-checked in the face last year, that didn't take a step in the Battle of Ontario. Did that
No.
Didn't excite you guys?
Think so.
No?
I'm okay.
Heading into tonight.
I'll consider it a seed planted.
Okay.
That still has a chance to grow.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like a little green slab of clay, like Gumby. Right? Just and that's where we're at
my
right
God. You can tell he's a little older than JB, eh?
I know
with the Gumby phrase.
I know what Gumby is.
Anybody under 50 turning the station now.
Who's the dog?
Pokey.
Was it Pokey?
I believe so.
Gumby and
so.
Pokey.
Hope I'm not thinking of something else. I think it's Pokey.
Okay, let's go to Craig Berube, head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, get his thoughts on facing Ottawa and what the Battle of Ontario is.
Yeah, it's always a battle with Ottawa. I'm not that familiar with it, but I think more than anything, I mean, it's going to be a hard game at both nets tonight. They go to the net really well, and they got some physical players up front that are good-sized guys. So we got to be strong in our net front tonight. And on the other side of things, we got to do a good job of getting to the net here tonight and looking for some rebound goals and things like that around the net. That's, it's going to be a tough blue paint tonight for me on both ends.
Love that.
He's not exactly selling the game hard either.
I do love tough blue paint on both ends.
Oh, do you?
I
Okay.
do love that.
Insert name of team, and then Craig Berube goes on, well, it's going to be hard around the net. We got to get in the blue paint. I mean, that's Craig Berube's style of hockey, right?
Save cliches.
Yeah. That's and I want you to play it all 82 games, and we're seeing a little bit more of it in Toronto. But boy, would any team wouldn't you love having a Brady Tkachuk?
Oh,
like honestly, that'll start ending up like if Ottawa doesn't get their bleep together, you're wasting a guy like that on that team. No, maybe he'll stay like Barkov stayed forever, different kind of player in Florida, whatever. When they didn't get to the next level for so many years,
I think they're too good to have him think that way. Like they gotta really, they gotta be almost looking like Montreal for a guy like Brady Tkachuk to consider how long do I want to stick around here.
Oh, and I'm not trying to usher him out. Don't get me wrong, because he made a commitment there, and this team, like, it's the kind of thing when you make. And last year, let's face it, they had the ownership change when the season started, general manager change, coach change, a lot of things, and hired a solid guy in Dave Poulin to be the assistant, and they got to learn to play the right way in Ottawa. They got to go back like the Leafs did. I'll give Mike Babcock credit a year or two about starting to play the right way. Then he kind of got going. He went sideways on things, but it's got to be the Babcock way. And that's what Ottawa's got to get those basics back.
Yeah, I wouldn't think, I know you're not saying this, but Ottawa's miles ahead of where Montreal is in terms of them building towards being good, I think. They have a lot better players. I think they're more.
They should be miles ahead. They are ahead.
I think maybe not miles ahead, but they're ahead. They're definitely ahead.
A couple weeks ago, they had the best winning percentage heading into the weekend. They played fewer games than anybody, and that. So, I mean, that can change in a hurry. Yeah. Maybe this watershed game tonight will be the difference.
The biggest game in Leafs history tonight, according to Kyper.
The Leafs. Are you done over there?
He's going to trade two Taylor Swift tickets to get two tickets.
The Leafs
of Ottawa game tonight.
The Leafs have recalled Alex Steves.
Yeah.
Up.
Okay, give him my best.
No Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
Where's your level of concern here?
In what sense?
I don't know. Just where is he?
Zero.
Okay.
They played 3 solid games. They're playing a stretch right now of 10 of 13 games at home. My barometer has been make home a more difficult place to win, get home ice advantage in the playoffs, make it a more difficult place for the other teams to win. So that's good when you get those wins. And I don't know what you consider watershed games, but let's say Boston, let's say Tampa Bay, and let's say in Winnipeg. Like, they won 3. They're not. I don't know what a statement game is, but they won 3 that I thought were good barometers. And then, and I know later when we talked to Steve Valiquette about things, because he's talking about it with the New York Rangers, trying to figure out, okay, they're like the Leafs. They need to do better in the playoffs. What is the regular season meaning for them? What do they get? So I'm looking at positives of late for the Toronto Maple Leafs based on that.
As you mentioned at the top of the hour, we're going to welcome in Steve Valiquette. It's Tuesday. Does a great job on MSG for the New York Rangers. Also has his Clear Sight Analytic company that does very well.
Been doing better since he's been coming on our show.
Yes, much better since he's coming on shows. Maybe a few more clients thanks to us.
Yeah.
So we'll have a fun conversation with him as well. And Spencer Carbery, head coach of the Washington Capitals, who's a runaway right now for Coach of the Year.
Should have got more votes last year.
Wow.
For the Jack Adams Award.
Yes.
Yeah.
Him and Kirk Muller are doing a pretty good job there.
Don't underrate that guy, Kirk Muller.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it in terms of jobs available.
Yeah.
And
is he too nice or something? People think they don't understand how effective he is.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a sneaky good, quiet assistant coach. Yeah. And so we don't have Ovi like going for the record like Patrick Marleau did for the games record. And I say that respect for Patrick Marleau, but you're playing on a San Jose Shark team that's going nowhere, right? And you're thinking, okay, great. Capitals lose 7-2, but Ovi scores 1 goal. He's closer to Gretzky's record. Capitals mathematically eliminated from the playoffs in January. You got a real
yes,
quick change artist Washington Capital team,
which is in itself a major story.
It is. You got.
I had them dead and buried for the next 2 years, 3 years.
And
I couldn't have been more wrong.
No Backstrom, no Kuznetsov. Yeah. Let's move on. And guys like Tom Wilson, he steps up anyway, but stepping up even a little bit more because there's a bigger role for him to have. I mean, there's a myriad.
Yeah,
of
we're gonna get into all of that with Spencer.
So
in about 15 minutes.
Berube today, I know this is another clip. You love listening to Berube clips, but he got asked with Austin Matthews if there was a quote unquote setback with his injury, whatever it was. And this is the answer that he gave.
No, not really. It's just not getting to where it needs to get to, so we're just trying to manage it, just trying to make sure when he comes back, he's good and 100%.
Okay. Wow.
So not really,
not getting where it needs to get to.
There hasn't been
I got out of that.
There hasn't been a setback. There hasn't been a setback, or no, there hasn't been a setback.
It's not getting where it needs to get to.
Yeah.
So there's been a setback.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he won't say that because
is it a rash or something?
No, it's not a rash.
So what you're saying? There's been a setback.
I'm not saying it.
Oh,
that's what I kind of.
That's what we're kind of getting out of Craig
As opposed to it
Berube.
not getting better, and the classic,
not at the rate that they'd like.
Nagging injury. Okay,
Yeah.
so something like that.
Something's bothering him.
Okay.
And they alluded to yesterday in the press conference when they were asked about it that it was the same thing that happened in the preseason. So I don't know what it was in the preseason. They didn't tell us what it was in the preseason, but it's back here again, and it's not really bad, but they're just trying to get it back to normal. So it's better, I guess, it happens now than in.
Yeah,
March?
we had him and Nylander in the playoffs, like with these mystery little things that.
I know they'll never be more. I just hate how much they lie to us.
Whatever it is, it's nagging.
Yeah,
that's all.
They just love to lie to us. All they do is lie.
We've had this conversation before. Where are they lying to you? They're just not telling you what it is.
Well, it's just day to day, every day. Just be like, he's going to miss 3 weeks. He's hurt. Why do you have to lie and be like, oh, it's it's getting better.
But in all honesty, they don't know when he's going to come back and say, I feel 100%. It feels great. They're just on him now.
All right.
So all they're doing is just saying what they believed 2 days ago or 3 days ago. It's day to day. If he comes back tomorrow and he says, I'm pain free and I'm comfort free, then start practicing again.
So
if he doesn't, then they got to deal with you, Sammy.
I just feel. Oh, go ahead.
No, but just say, Sam. No, but you're the average fan.
Yeah.
Or you're more than the average fan.
I am the average fan.
That they are not satisfied because we get asked that question. What's with Matthews?
Yeah.
And you know what? We could pretend we aren't, whether we're insiders or not. We have no idea, and we don't care. Like when I say I don't care anymore, I care about everyone being healthy. But it used to be, geez, we got to get to the bottom of this, right, Kyper? There was a day on the media side. We got to get to the bottom of this. Yeah. The fans want. Now it's just understood. It's whatever. So I don't even know why people do a deeper dive and ask a second question because, That's the answer you're going to get. You did your job. Ruby did his job, and we'll see how it plays out. Coaches can't force you to play anymore.
But there are people like Sammy that go, you guys are hiding something, and I'm going to find out.
He's always got conspiracy theories.
And if it's this huge nugget out there, I'll be the first to break it.
I'm the furthest thing from a newsbreaker. I would never know anything. I don't know anyone. But I just want to me, it's more concern because it feels like Matthews is banged up quite often.
So what mark did you get on your JFK conspiracy theory project in American history?
Well, no, but
grade 8.
What do you think? In all honesty, we have these conversations about Austin Matthews a lot in terms of there being a mystery thing or something nagging or this. And he scored 70 goals last year when he was healthy. Yeah. The year he scored 60 goals, he was perfectly healthy. And then the last few, I don't know, there just seems to be something always with him.
Well, he played every game the first year. He played all 82.
Yeah.
Got a shot on goal every game, too, which was kind of neat and quirky. And then he had the 1 year where he had 3 different injuries, right? Yeah. And they were supposedly all different. And anyway, whatever.
Anyways, just... Was that Goosebumps music? Is that what that is?
So, yeah, this is themed Young and the Restless.
Oh, okay, I thought it was Goosebumps.
Yeah.
X-Files.
Oh, X-Files. I don't know.
The theme from Nadia?
Anyway.
Isn't that what the Young and the Restless was?
Well, the Y and R is...
See, I like that you're older than me. Yeah. So I feel young.
That had with the more dramatic kind of the Y and R, The soap opera.
So we all thought it was 3 different
Victor
things.
Newman.
Yes.
Anyways.
Playing Austin Matthews.
Sorry for being a conspiracy guy. I just want to know what the hell's wrong with him.
It's all right.
It's not really a setback.
Well, if we see him, we'll ask.
Thank
okay?
you. Thank you.
Sammy wants to know.
All right, where do you want to go with your clips there, Sammy?
Well,
Connor Dewar
gets back tonight, but I wanted to ask about Max Domi and what do you think he's best put in the lineup here? He's best cast because he's now hasn't had a point since they won against
10
Tampa.
games?
Since they won against Tampa, he hasn't had a point. And he's making $3.5 million. They need more from him. Where do you think his ideal situation is? Is it playing up on the top line? Like, I don't think the third line. He's playing on the first line now with Matthews out. He's not getting any points with Marner. What's going on with Domi? I'm getting a lot of that from my buds, basically, is why I'm asking you two guys.
I think Max is at his best when he's a guy that can come in different scenarios and hold the fort. For him to hold a spot like a legit second-line centerman, I think doesn't work. Ultimately, if everybody's healthy, he's in the top 9 for me.
So they had a guy, when they weren't very good, named Mason Raymond, who had a real strong year and got a contract out of Calgary after that because he could fit in every line that particular year. And to me, Max Domi is like the 6th or 7th man off the bench. Yeah. If it was an NBA team, he would be the guy not in your starting 5, but can do a few things. And last year, filling in the playoffs, playing center. Yeah. Like, I really commend that. Like, and he did a real solid job. So that's where I see it. And he should get more points. He knows that, but he's just done a good job about if there's a void, he seems to fill it. So that's where I look at it. I'm sure he'd rather say, I'd like to be on the first line full time. I'd like to be the second line full time. But that's where I look at him.
Because they're not getting the defense is way better for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. And I think that's what has to do a lot with their winning, and the lack of goals against over the last little bit has been really, really impressive. But up front, they are getting a lack of production from the bottom half again. Like, it really is starting to feel, team A, team B-ish with the forwards. I think the defense is much improved, but they do need something from outside the core guys, no? Like, it's pretty...
Yeah, you do, but do you need it right now at this very second?
Well, with Matthews out, you need it more.
But again, we go to
they're finding ways to win.
Yes,
and they're finding ways that their third and fourth lines look good. Would they all like to score more? Yes. But do they absolutely need it now? They're finding ways. They're finding ways with great goaltending. Now they're finding ways, Gord, with the power play.
Yep.
Mitch Marner looks very comfortable without Austin.
And Tavares had that couple big games a few weeks ago, right? Like different guys.
Tavares is back into his second line centerman position that you don't know ultimately if that's the look that you're going to have if you're winning rounds in the playoffs. But right now it's working. It's enough to get by the first week of November.
Yeah, and again, the jump to game number 83. And Sammy, we need the Nick Paul on Toronto to get that big goal like he did for Tampa Bay a couple of years ago. But it's it's the big guys playing disproportionate amount of minutes that haven't scored in the playoffs. So that'll be the challenge again about, sure, you want to have depth scoring and, some balance that way, but you're going to need your big guns to score like they did in the regular season. So right now, it seems like whether the emphasis on defense is taken away a little bit from offense, don't know if that quite goes hand in hand, but you're just looking at different things to get ready for a better playoff run.
And it's a work in progress, I think, between Berube and McMahon and Holmberg. And can you develop them to score a big Nick Paul goal in the playoffs for you in April? Right now, it's like musical chairs. You think McMahon's in, he's out with Berube. You think Holmberg's in, he's out with Berube. Robertson, the same thing. Kemp, the same thing. Kemp was a healthy scratch. Now he's looked like a pretty important guy on the weekend.
Yeah, and a good Pacioretty was a difference maker in a couple of games, and now he's out. So you got Nick Robertson, geez. Anyway, it seems like, unlike Liljegren, that they feel there is something to keep working at with Nick Robertson, that he can get to the but there's no question, Sam, you're right about it. In an ideal world, that one or two of them, get to a higher level offensively.
All right, have we played Dewar?
No, we haven't played it yet.
Okay, let her rip.
Yep. Clip on Dewar, please, Derek. Number 2.
Simplify, right? I mean, he went down and played, but, been a while, but he's been practicing with us, so he's familiar with everything. But, timing and things like that, and, NHL speed and game, just simplify and just play your game. He's an energy guy and, physical and grinding it out and checking and all those types of things. So, but I think, first game back, it's been a long time for him, is getting up to speed. It's a fast game out there, and he's got to make sure he's, simplifying and smart.
What's the over-under by April that Craig Berube uses the word simplify?
I mean,
1,000?
They wouldn't even put the number up. It's too big.
1,500?
Yeah, it would be.
But honestly, though, in theory,
yes,
Dewar should be a guy that fits right into what Berube wants to do, right? As a bottom 6 kind of guy that's north-south, skates hard, physical, aggressive, good defensively, beats the puck to a square. That's the type of guy.
The bottom 6 guys, maybe it's the same on every team. They change all the time. There's just really has been no stability about bottom 6 guys. And I don't know if that's been cap related or what it's related, but
that's exactly what it is.
That's a hope you can get some identity of those lines.
It would have been really interesting if Max Pacioretty didn't get hurt, where that room or roster was going to end up shaping up. Because let's just say, argument's sake, we're in April right now. You got Matthews, Tavares, Domi. Where does Dewar fit into any of that right now? Right? He's the 5th centerman?
Well, then you're looking from the press box, obviously.
Right.
You're the 5th. Yeah, I keep going back. This is one thing. And, Berube, the Stanley Cup was 5 years ago. So, and that's what you're hoping for, a great playoff performance this year. But, everything went right that year because the Blues, it's not like they followed up and made it to the final. But one of the things I really noticed that year was he had an ability that there were 15 forwards, and he kept them all included in the 12 forward spots. And in the playoffs, he kept them included.
Yeah.
Like there would be all of a sudden, boom, a guy would get a game or two out of and seemingly be the right spice on that particular night. So that's where I'm, not that Sheldon Keefe didn't try to do that, nor does any other head coach not try to do that, but I think that's where you hope that feel can work for Berube and his staff once again.
Was it you, Kyper, or was it Bourne that said it's probably the way that Berube wants to have all these guys not know if he likes them or not? It was you.
That was me.
Yeah. And, with
Keeps
how
everybody on their toes, and nobody can relax, and no one can ever feel any type of job security is there for any real length of time.
But you look at these guys here now, though. Yarncroc just went to get a second opinion on whatever's hampering him. So that's a long-term thing. Pacioretty's week to week, which could turn into a month.
6 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
6 weeks.
This looks like, your bottom six of Robertson, Holmberg, Dewar, Lorentz, Kampf, Reeves is going to be your bottom six for an extended period of time. You got to see if they're going to be able to get something going here, I guess, right? Like you have no other choice. But
And I think Brian Reeves has been really good.
You do?
Really good.
Well,
yeah. I think he's
over 12 minutes Saturday. Like the good part about the weekend.
I just think that when he's out there, he's keeping pucks alive. He's spending a lot of time in the offensive zone. And, some people just want him to fight more. They just think at the end of the day, it's not enough for me. You're supposed to be out there beating people up. And it's like, that's not the way it works anymore.
So last year, that fourth line was a -1 every game, the first 8 games.
It was brutal stuff.
Yeah, they just had some, they didn't play well and they had some bad luck.
And they just spent the whole time in their own zone.
Yeah, so he never get off on the right foot till later on in the season. And then to the point now, you expect, again, this should be a team, make it difficult for other teams to win at home. So you did that against Detroit and Montreal, two teams you should beat. And the great part about it is, did you look at the minutes that he was able to roll 4 lines, he was able to, roll 6D, and that's what great teams do. And the other guys get more ice time, they get more confidence, they get better, they're more effective. It all trickles down, and that's what they had on the weekend.
It will be interesting to see the minutes allocated because you have to be conscientious as well that you're going to get out of this game. You're going to race to the airport. You're going to ride a bus. You're going to wait at the customs. And you're going to get in around 2:33 a.m. and you're going to play the Washington Capitals tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And that, if I'm not mistaken, is the 4th or 5th back-to-back for the Leafs.
Yeah, they've been playing a lot of hockey.
Okay.
That is a ton here. And that has to be in the equation of how you're talking about those minutes being allocated.
Okay. There's the answer. What can you do about it? Play in a way that you roll 4 lines again tonight. Because the whole thing of back-to-backs, I get tired about it being a ready excuse always. Oh, we're going there and the other team's
It's real,
tired.
Gord, though. It's real.
It's a factor. But it's a factor. It evens out during the course of the season. The fact is.
No, it doesn't because the Leafs have more back-to-backs, I think, than anyone in the
Well, it could
the
even
league.
out if they had
that
more
true,
flexibility during their schedule.
I'm pretty sure they're right up there if they're not.
Okay, but you can, by allocating more, you can't dictate your road games, but you can massage home dates a bit. So whatever the thing may be, back-to-backs, again, customs. I mean, customs comes on the plane now, okay? Basically, right? I mean, you're traveling charter. I think saying that, it is exhausting. People don't, wow, that sounds glamorous. That's not but now it's nowhere near to, quote, the old days, landing at 3 a.m. from Minnesota back for a home game and making the guy skate on a Saturday morning, which was ridiculous after 3 hours sleep. So, yes, it's a factor, but it shouldn't be an excuse.
Okay.
And there are 2 things. Their schedule does lighten up after the back-to-back. They have the Oilers on Saturday night.
10 of 13 at home right now. They're in the midst of.
And then they don't play again until Wednesday
against
and then
Vegas.
Sunday. And then they're off till Sunday.
After Vegas Wednesday, what's Sunday?
Utah at home.
Is that a big game too?
I think they're all big games.
Last thing before we go. Is it weird that Reeves hasn't fought and we're middle of November? Are you surprised by that? Or is it just a guy that's getting older and less wanting to do it and just playing well?
The word presence.
Yeah.
If you can be a presence and known out there, whatever, then that's part of doing the job, it's, I think anyway, Kyper, there's an element of that you played. And again, it was a different era, but it's not like you have to show but just about, this particular player's on the ice and there's a respect for what he can do.
And there isn't, up until now, anything glaring out there where you would have said something needed to be answered, someone needed to make some sort of statement, and then we move towards Ryan Reeves not doing something.
There's no last year's
nothing. There's nothing
But
there.
there wasn't that when he fought Rempe last year. There wasn't that when he fought, Marcus Foligno in the second game of the year, when he fought Jack Guy in the first game. There was times where he was just going out there for the sake of it. I'm not even saying that I want him to do this. I think he's been good, like you said. He's got a role. It's just surprising that we're mid-November. He doesn't have one. He doesn't have one.
Well, it's good. Maybe part of feeling comfortable.
How many fighting majors have we had?
You never see him.
Right?
Yeah.
McCabe got in the first fight of the year with Shen there in St. Louis. Didn't go so well, but anyways, we should go because Carbery's going to call in at 4:35.
All right. I think we got through most of the clips, hey?
The only one we didn't get through was about the Ridley Gregg cross-check.
Anything there?
Wait, like, listen,
Does he reference it like it could be coming into play tonight?
No.
Okay, then why'd you clip it?
Because it's the coach. And I got to work what I got, mate. I'm trying to make chicken salad out of you-know-what here.
All right. We're making chicken salad with Spencer Carbery after the break. So don't go away. Nick Kypreos, Gord, Stellick, Sammy McKee. As promised, we deliver. Head coach of the Washington Capitals, Spencer Carbery, 10-4-0. 14 games. Not bad. Spencer, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Just, since getting the job as the head coach of the Washington Capitals and kind of hearing that, the Capitals, along with the Pittsburgh Penguins, for many years, carried the freight off the backs of Ovechkin and Sid, and there was only a matter of time before it kind of turned, Spencer, and there's a downside and there's a retool or a regroup or whatever you want to call it. And so where's yours? What happened? How did you guys avoid it?
We tried not to listen to the outside noise of what it looked like we were potentially going to have to do, but I think management and Brian McClellan and now Chris Patrick, who's now the new general manager, I think they've done a tremendous job of trying to find ways to improve our roster with not just trades and free agency, but by trying to bring some young guys in and make sure that we were doing everything we could to develop them in Hershey. And that helped me because I had some experience working with some of the young players that are now impactful players for us in Hershey.
So, Spencer, I'm an older guy, so I don't do the deep dive on the statistics. But last year, it's different this year, but last year, people would say, and they'd say it admiringly so, the Washington Capitals are in the playoffs, but statistically, the numbers, it makes no sense. So how do you beat the clock, beat the numbers, and have that kind of season that at the end you got the W's when some other people say those numbers didn't correlate?
Yeah, which they're not wrong. I mean, if you looked at our underlying analytics and we would lose some games big, and then when a game was tight, we would find a way to win. So I felt like that was a lot of our success last year was we were playing in what it felt like. Cause we really wanted to make the playoffs. Our guys, we felt like we could get there. Now we were playing in playoff type games in December because of the start that we had. So that the urgency level we were playing with, we were in playoffs in December. So that was sort of one part of it. And the other part I think we got real comfortable at is playing in tight games. So the longer it went 0-0, we were fine. We felt like we could thrive in those games 2-1, 1-0 because we weren't a real quote-unquote potent offensive team. And then I think that's maybe what we worked all summer on and as a staff trying to figure out because we knew we had to get better offensively. That's the nuts and bolts of it. We weren't nearly where we needed to be offensively. And so that's what we've been tried to implement and do some things this offseason.
How about, Spencer, just, outside of the roster change and what your team looks like today compared to when you started last season, what about coaching in terms of what have you done differently? What have you gotten better at? What have you learned real quick in the National Hockey League that's advanced your coaching philosophy from last year to this year?
Yeah, honestly, it's changed a decent amount, especially offensively. I had a vision of how we were going to play last year, knowing the way the Caps won the Stanley Cup and Nick Backstrom and Kuzi and Osh. And so getting there last year and sort of trying to implement and play a certain way. And I found out pretty quickly, okay, and coming from Toronto too, I brought a lot of things from Toronto that I felt like, okay, this I feel like could help us here, and here, whatever, X's and O's stuff. And I quickly found out, I said, okay, well, I don't know if this is going to work. So we really need to, and the longer it took and the way we saw our team and the strengths of our team and the personnel in our team, we had to make some quick adjustments and pivot in a lot of different directions that were coming from me. And so that's I think where I've probably grown the most is I've got a really good feel on what our team does really, really well and the individual skill sets. And then what does our 5-on-5 game look as a team that best suits our group? And that's I've had to pivot, I'll be honest with you, a little bit. And I think now we're in a pretty good spot. We just got to keep that going.
And maybe in some ways, when you're a number 3 overall pick like Pierre-Luc Dubois and people expect like the 100-point seasons, you have to pivot to a degree.
Yeah.
So, like, I know the stats aren't wow, but I heard you talking very, very positively and favorably about his contribution.
100%. And I feel bad because he's like, I think I saw a stat the other day. His finishing rate is at the bottom of the National Hockey League with what he's created, like how many goals he should have. And they're just not going in for him right now. But he's doing so many good things. And I think that you hit the nail on the head is because of where he was drafted and all this other stuff, expectations and pressure and all, some people think that he's got to be a 40-goal scorer and a 100-point guy, and you got to be. And for him, I think he's learned and he's come into his identity as a player. Is you can be a phenomenal National Hockey League center that wins or helps win a team a lot of games and be a 25, 30-goal, be great at both ends, be able to play against the best centermen in the league and shut them down, play in every situation. And there's a ton of value in that. You can be a great player for a long, long time in this league, and I feel like that's where he's trending towards, and he's done an excellent job for us and thriving in the tough matchups, playing against everybody's first line, and in every situation for us.
Spencer, can you say the same kind of principle applies to Dylan Strome? Because you don't think necessarily of winning championships with Strome and Pierre-Luc Dubois 1-2, but it's working.
Yeah, and I think Stromer, because of his career path as well, and being his third team and where he was picked in Arizona and Chicago, and I feel like a lot of people wrote him off in his career, and rightly so. Like, I'm not going to comment on what happened in other organizations or what he looked like earlier in his career, but I feel like for me, the last 2 years, he just continues to get better and better and better. And when we play him in these matchups, and he's continues to produce, and his underlying numbers are through the roof, and he's creating and playing with and doing a lot of great things. So it's been impressive. And like I said, he just continues to build, just like he did his first year in Washington. He was really, really solid. Last year, I feel like he was even better. And then this year, he's even taken another step further.
How do you coach Alexander Ovechkin?
Open the gate.
He's honestly, he's easier than you would think. He's awesome. Like everybody thinks it's it's not the real. Like, this guy wants to win desperately, and we talk a lot. He's in my office a lot, and it's usually centered around how are we going to figure out a way to win a hockey game tonight, and what can we do to win. And so that sometimes doesn't align with the greatest goal scorer, which is an individual statistic, but it really is him. He wants to win. Yeah, he wants to score goals for sure because he feels like that'll help us win games. But this guy is extremely motivated by and competitive. Like, he's just such a competitive guy, and so everything that comes out of him is usually win, and then how am I going to score a goal, or how can we figure out a way to put me in good spots to score.
Spencer, last year we had a few conversations on this show, and a lot of it led to, like, how does Spencer and Kirk Muller hide this guy? I mean, it did not look good last year. This year, I'm watching him shoot in stride again. It's like he's got live legs again. And what is the major difference between the lull that he had last year, and we all had it age-related, to what's going on today?
I think he's not that he wasn't motivated last year, but I think this year and the playoffs last year, I feel like there's – and I know every year you got something to prove, but I feel like he's got a little bit of extra sort of chip on his shoulder with the way the Rangers series went and age and everybody's saying this and that. He has come in and right from day one, like he didn't score the first few games and we were like, is it the same type of start? But if you watch the film, like he was playing well, like he's moving well, he's getting into good spots, he's attacking, he's it's not just relying on power play, like this is 5-on-5 stuff. And then I would give a ton of credit to, like we talked about, Dylan Strome, and we found a good left winger for him. Like I moved Ovi to the right wing, so he's playing right wing now. And now left on the left side is Protas, who's a left shot, because I wanted to use him on his. I'm not a huge fan of Protas on his offside, so if you play him on the right and Ovi on the left, so we made that change. And Pro has done a really good job as a big winger that can skate, that can retrieve some pucks and can make a play and get a puck to Ovi. So I feel like there's a mix of him being really highly motivated this year and moving really well and getting himself into good spots, and then some chemistry with his line, which has looked real good thus far.
So you'd been a head coach before, not in the NHL. Now you're a head coach in the NHL. Your stop as an assistant coach in Toronto, what did that do for you personally?
Gosh, I feel like I got a 2-year master class in just so many different areas because of the people in that organization. And it's not just with Sheldon and being on that coaching staff, like unbelievable coaches in that, but working with Kyle and Rich Rottenberg and all the Haley Wickenheiser, and being able to be around Jason Spezza, and then you also you're talking about coaching and being around thousands of hours of Austin and Mitch and John Tavares and Mark Giordano and these guys that have so much knowledge in the game. So I'm in this position because of the opportunity that Toronto, and they took a chance on me and Brendan Shanahan and Kyle and bringing me in as a first-time NHL coach to run the power play there for 2 years. So very gratuitous to that organization in Toronto for giving me that chance, and then being able to work with the people there. And obviously the power play, I owe everything I have to those 10 guys that run that power play that we were 1-2 in the 2 years that I was there.
And then there's the media, like our shows, Spencer, where you just roll your eyes and go, oh my God, get me out of here. This is ridiculous.
I used to that was the thing for me. I loved, because I would watch, because I love being in Canada. I miss that about Toronto is you get the shows every day, and I could come home from, and I could watch that. And people will go, well, it's so tough there. The market's tough. I go, you should hear what I say about myself when the power play goes 0 for 4. Like what the media says in the articles, I'm like, this isn't good enough. We were awful. We got to do this, and this better. So the pressure that I would put on my job to excel was like, I'm like, you guys are right in that article. You're absolutely right. You're awful.
Now, I want to know as well, like personal, I mean, you're staying in great shape. Did you find Bruce Boudreau's fitness plan in your desk when you went there? Is that what you're following?
Hey, was there a big mustard stain on it?
Oh, yeah, he's a beauty. Him and he lives in Hershey, Pennsylvania now, so we get out every once in a while and play some golf. He's a beauty.
Your team's going to be well rested. They're going to be in bed by 9 p.m. You're going to watch the Leafs beat up, or the Leafs in Ottawa beat each other up on a division rival. They're going to come in 3 a.m., and that first period is going to scare the hell out of you, isn't it?
100%. It just happened to us. Pittsburgh just walked in and they were up 2-0 before we could blink, coming in off the back-to-back. So the back-to-backs sometimes can be a trap. So we need to be ready.
Hey, Spencer, great stuff. We really appreciate you coming on the show, and wish you the best of luck. And say hi to our good buddy Kirk Muller for us from Gord, Stellick, and I, and Sammy.
Yeah.
Absolutely will. Thanks for having me, guys. Anytime.
Head coach of the Washington Capitals and doing a terrific job, Spencer Carbery.
Now, Bruce Boudreau is doing some work on the Capital broadcast. So, so for equal time, got to say that he knows Spencer well. That's why I knew that. And also, Bruce got his first hole-in-one this summer.
Really?
In Hershey, yeah. So he said
His pants?
no, so they put out a release about it, and he lied what club he used because he actually used a wood, but he said it whatever. So he lied on it, but he said after, of all things, they had to buy drinks, and Bruce doesn't drink. So Craig Berube was there too. Craig, so he said,
Who does drink?
Yeah, well, and probably on Bruce's. So Bruce said he had a couple, and he's chatting with Berube. He knows him well, and then he said by the end of it, Bruce had a few. And he goes, "I'm telling him how to run the power play. I feel like I'm a fan, just annoying him at the end. So I had to apologize to him next time." But they were in whatever that golf club is in Hershey that Spencer plays in, and Berube frequents as well. So
That's awesome.
And Boudreau. So I'm saying that as a friend with respect, that he's doing a great job on the Capital games as well.
Love it.
You surprised that Ovi's on a 50-goal pace, and do we just assume that sometime in March this could happen? He could pass Wayne Gretzky.
Well, I'm just glad he's going through. I don't know if he could go through the back door because, drag it out the way the first third of the season went last year. I'm just really impressed by both him and Sidney Crosby, seemingly finding not the fountain of youth, but just they're playing their game at a certain level right now. So I like it that they're going to be they're going to be a relevant team. He never gets hurt. That's what Wayne Gretzky says about Ovi. His durability is unbelievable, and he's back to being the Ovi that we kind of missed for about a third of a year.
But the big difference is Ovi's carrying a team right now that many believe that can make the playoffs, maybe even make some noise at this point. And Sid in Pittsburgh, a miserable night last night. We're at the Hall of Fame, and as you mentioned, we saw Jason Spezza there.
It was as friendly a guy as there is.
Class act.
Yeah.
Like, and he knew they were down big last night, still taking pictures, still talking to people, give him all the credit in the world. But he knew that staring at that phone that there was something ugly going on with his hockey club last night.
So,
Go ahead, Gord.
I'm just saying, I don't think is it just at home? They've never given up 6 goals in the first period.
No.
But what does it matter? 6 goals at home. You started in 1967. Never did that before, Sammy. Ouch.
It's embarrassing. You notice with Carbery there when he was talking about the power play when he was here, and he's like, "Yeah, we managed to be the 2 years I was there, 1 and 2 in the league." You notice? You guys hear him say that? I love that.
Yeah,
I love that because I think he probably knows what's been going on with the Leafs power play to start this season. Getting hot now, but I love that little thing you put in there.
awesome. What have you done for me lately? Now, they're fine right now.
I really like the sound. Like, that was a great interview, guys. I really like the sound of him. I think he seems like he's got them going in the right direction.
Well, and there's a tone in his voice that just has constant energy, optimism, positive vibes that I hear nothing but great things. I've gone to a couple of functions with the Washington Capitals as an alumni, and you can't run into somebody that doesn't have something very positive to say about Spencer.
I think it's like life, that if you are not yourself, you're screwed, because that's the best thing you are. And say, like how Mike Babcock changed, okay, compared to whatever it may be. How John Tortorella, you can't all be John Tortorella. You can't all be Rick Tocchet. Like, I mean, that's what they are. And whatever it may be, because some I've seen, and you've seen them too, whether it goes to their head or they, get full of themselves, which is the same thing, or then feel they have to be different rather than themselves. Like, it's got to be like a natural evolution. You can never lose a sense of being yourself, and you can tell in talking to him that's exactly what he is.
And we've got a lot of people like that, but we have produced a few frauds in our game.
Hey,
and they don't last very long.
No,
they don't.
Canada list?
No. The show's over. The Leaf Edition show's over.
And on the media side, too. A few frauds. Yeah.
Okay. For Gord's list of frauds in the media, stick around our national hour. Because we also got Steve Valiquette, who's
not a fraud.
Terrific analyst for us on Tuesdays. You're not going to want to miss that. Plenty more still with Stellick when we return after these words. Let's welcome everybody in to our national hour of the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. In for the on assignment Justin Bourne, let's welcome in Gord Stellick.
Kyper,
Where's the applause?
Sammy.
Derek, thank you, Sammy. Thank you. And that was Sammy clapping.
My mic wasn't even on.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go. Gordo, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it. We had a terrific hour on the Leaf Edition.
Yeah.
As we go national, you're in for a treat because it's Tuesday, which means Steve Valiquette.
I know. I watch and listen pretty well most Tuesdays.
We go deep.
And most days, period.
Deep into the valley right now with New York Ranger.
The only day you listen is Tuesday.
MSG. And very well dressed. I like the tie today. For those of you watching on one of our Sportsnet platforms, Steve Valiquette. What's up, buddy?
You know, boys, I'm telling you right now, the money I've spent since I started working with Henrik Lundqvist is ridiculous, okay? It's been so expensive just to try and sit next to him.
Okay. Do you know who Richard Steele is? He's an ex-boxing referee
Yeah.
who, would encourage people to throw in the towel, right? So I'm telling you, you got to be like Richard Steele and throw the towel in. Call for the towel because you'll never win that fight, Valley, against King Henry.
It's killing me. And I don't even tell my wife how much I spend either.
Well, listen, appreciate you joining us. We got a good list of a look around the National Hockey League, Hall of Fame weekend. I'm with Mike Keenan.
You're pointing at me.
I know.
Okay.
But you were there.
Okay, I know, but I'm not Mike Keenan. Anyway.
One of the best moments I remember during my year with Keenan was the time that he pulled Mike Richter because he thought he sucked. So he put in Glenn Healy. Glenn Healy went in for about 13, 14 minutes, gave up, I think, 2, pulled him back out, put in Richter again. I'm not suggesting for 1 second that Keenan had a great feel on when to pull a goalie, but I'm just wondering now as I watch throughout the early parts of the season, do coaches still know when to pull a goalie or what their purpose is when they pull one? Because sometimes I'm wondering, this guy just gave up 4 goals and 16 shots. Why is he still in the net?
Right. You know what it is too, Kyper? There's a lot of communication before the season begins with the coach about what the season's going to look like, what his expectations are. I'll give you a little bit of insight into a meeting I had with John Tortorella before my 4th year with the Rangers, backing up Henrik. Brought me in his office and he said, "Valley, sit down. All right, here's how it's going to go this year. You're the backup. I need you to know your role." By the way, I didn't need to be reminded of that. I just have to look at the stats. I'm playing 12 to 15 starts a year. And he says, "You're going to be playing the games. We don't think we can win this year. And if it's not going well, you're not coming out." That was the end of the meeting. And I walked out of the room. And I was like, you know what? That was debilitating to me because now I'm looking at the schedule and I'm like, okay, 3rd game in 4 nights in Pittsburgh. I'm playing that one. You know, I could see it. I could tell you when my starts are going to come. When I watch the game right now, I'm looking through a different lens because it's all about trying to capture the win. Are there nights where your goalie should come out because the other guy would give you a better chance to win? It depends on the goals that he allows. If your goalie allows on the very first goal of the game that he allows, if it's a low danger one, you will lose 86% of the time. That was the statistic last year. This year, with the way things have gone in the NHL, it's a little bit lower. It's 74% of the time. But it doesn't change if he allows 2. If he allows 2, he should be wearing a hat to start the next period because you will absolutely lose. You lose 94% of the time.
Wow.
So what I'm saying is I'm watching Shesterkin Thursday against Buffalo. It was a 6-1 blowout game, but the first goal, if you watch it, it was Dahlin and he fanned on it. It went 5-0.
Yeah.
This is minutes before hearing on the bridge that possibly he had signed his big deal at 11.5. Now it never happened, but if you can imagine I don't know if he got wind of it or not, but I was wondering at that time if it was a distraction. Lo and behold, the second goal of the game, it's low danger. The third one's low danger. Guys, it never gets better from that point. And I think this is a message for youth hockey coaches through junior and college, minor pro. If your goalie has clear view on a shot and it's from 20 feet or further out and he gets beat on it, just have your antenna up. because if anything looks a little dicey in the next few sequences at the net, get him out of there. It's a bad night because he's just having an off night.
So, Steve, what I go about when you talked about Tortorella telling you the role, even though it was kind of tough love. And, once I remember asking two favorite guys that got in broadcasting of ours, John Garrett, Cheech, right? And I asked him the question about, was there ever a situation where you didn't have a good relation with the other goalie? Like something was, and I was surprised that he offered an answer and he mentioned Greg Millen, who's a media colleague. But he said it's because our roles weren't defined. So it wasn't a healthy situation back then. And I'm curious, does that happen still now, or are people told like you were, so there are no ifs and buts during the course of a season?
Okay, well, if you remember when Shesterkin came here from the American Hockey League 5 years ago, he started 9-1. Henrik took a back seat. Georgiev took a back seat. And it was really hard on Georgiev because he thought he was going to be the next guy in line. I can't imagine, and from what I've heard, that whole scene didn't go well, having three guys at that time. That's not very typical. Shesterkin just broke the door down. He played so well in Hartford back then, Gord, you couldn't even keep him there. He had to come up, and the team was rebuilding, and Henrik was maybe or maybe not staying a little longer term. Oftentimes, the role is defined because if it is not, you guys have been around the teams long enough. If you don't know your role, it causes problems. There's a subplot around every corner in the locker room, and everyone's always talking, and it's just the way it is. Everybody has to know their role. I had this conversation earlier in the season with a head coach in the NHL about the spirit of a hockey team and what it looks like. And when I watch Connor Hellebuck go down and fist pump after winning his game the other night to set an NHL record, and you see the way that Winnipeg's playing right now, they play with a lot of spirit. And Carolina Hurricanes play with a lot of spirit right now. And Vegas, I've watched them a few times recently. I feel like they have a spirit. And Minnesota has a lot of spirit. Right now, the Rangers do not have a lot of spirit. And there's been some distractions in the offseason, and maybe a few roles haven't been clearly defined. But you see it. And, Gord, I'd spoken to you earlier this morning, and I brought it up that I heard you a few weeks ago talking about the Leafs. And where we are in New York right now with the Rangers is exactly where I feel you were with your opinion on the Toronto Maple Leafs a few weeks ago.
We're talking to Steve Valiquette, analyst with the Rangers, MSG, and CEO of ClearSight Analytics. So, Valley, where are we in terms of style of play today? And you just mentioned the Leafs. So what we perceived the last few years of being an East-West kind of team has now turned into a Craig Berube north-south, straight lines, get it in deep, pucks to the net, blah, blah, blah. But what do we know about East-West versus north-south?
I think the most important thing to know about East to West is how you defend it. It's more important than the offense. It's how you defend it, because the one thing I can tell you right now, if you look at the bottom 10 teams in the NHL at defending against that pass, which does account for more goals than any other goal, the low East to West, the low pass below the hash marks.
Seam passes, right?
Yeah, the seam pass. It goes in more than any other goal, and more than twice the next closest shot type. So this is something that we do every day within our company because we're looking at trends. And the trend on the East to West game offensively is 40% more chances than 5 years ago right now in the NHL. So the league's certainly gone East to West. The current goalies that I speak to that have been in the league 5 or more years, they feel it. They see it every night. I was watching, guys, Colorado, Carolina the other night, and in the first pass of the puck, it was 30 seconds into the game. The first play down the ice was low East to West. That one we just talked about, under the hash, across the seam. Georgiev's got to make a split save. It's got to be a spectacular save, but it doesn't stop. In Carolina, they had 5 of those in this game, and that was not Carolina before. Carolina for a long time has been a trendy pick amongst NHL fans and media to say they're going to win, and now I feel they are set to win because of the way that they are controlling their offense. The way their offense used to work was volume shooting. And Henrik and I, we work together and we talk about it all the time. The amount of good games, great games that he played for the Rangers against Carolina because it was easy to play against them. They'd warm you up all night, and then when you'd face a difficult one, you'd be warm for it. And Shesterkin, the same thing. Every time Shesterkin played against Carolina the last few years, look at his numbers. He's had 48 save nights. He's had 52 save nights. I feel like a really good goalie, like the one that Carolina has been up against in the playoffs in the past 4 or 5 years where they could have had a little more success, they've gotten stymied because they're keeping the guy warm through the playoff series. Where they are right now, they're on a different level. And the way I think hockey is being played right now, I'm just going to carry on because I pulled a bunch of stuff here to share on the show, which is save percentage is at a 30-year low. Shots on goal are at a 20-year low, so teams are shooting less. I already mentioned the east to west being up 40% over the last 5 years. The perimeter shots, the clear-sighted perimeter shots, they're down 34%, so teams are taking fewer bad shots. And then the clear-sighted shots from just outside and inside the slot area combined are down 30%. Because when you watch Edmonton play right now, fellas, they're really good at having their stars like Leon and Connor getting inside and then dishing. And it's not always a shot on goal anymore. And they had 3 goals that I loved against Vancouver. They had one that was a pass off a rebound right net front. They had one that was off a turnover where you can see everyone just separate and get on both sides of the ice and be available for east to west. And then Corey Perry pumped it in. And then the last one was a Draisaitl net drive where he carries everybody across the ice and kicks the puck on a weak side rebound. And I'm looking at those 3 goals, guys. I'm like, what could possibly Lankinen have done there? You know, he gives up 7 on the night, but I don't know if at least 4 or 5 of them were almost impossible to stop. But because I think shot quality has taken hockey to a whole new level now. It looks like a different game to me.
So, wondering, Pittsburgh's one situation. I mean, they have 3 goaltenders. You just need one to start stopping the puck. And last year we saw Tampa could stay the course with Vasilevsky injured, got by. In Vancouver's case, and you just brought it up, but I mean, are you saying all of a sudden, no Thatcher Demko and, and Charlie Lindgren's a great example in Washington. They could stay the course because he was a pleasant surprise. So how do you gauge that Lankinen, and you know what, you're okay versus you're playing with fire as far as the Vancouver Canucks riding it with Thatcher Demko's injury?
Thatcher has been so important to them over the last 5 years. He's been their most important player, I would argue, because I know you could say Petey and JT Miller, et cetera. You could say Quinn, but I think that he's been the stabilizer back there. And with him out, you can get a run from Lankinen, but he needs support. And it's almost like unfair for a lot of the goalies in the NHL right now to be put into positions that they're just not ready for. And Skinner's the same thing in Edmonton. And I bring this up a lot, guys. There's probably a dozen goalies in the NHL that just didn't spend enough time in the minors. They didn't get their 200 games, so that they haven't been able to come in and have an easier transition into the NHL game for a consistent long run. And that's just the difference there. Lankinen, his shot quality that night, forget about it. I mean, it could have been 10. So I think the goalies are facing a lot, and not all are all the way prepared. It's just the system that we're in right now too, with where everybody is and everybody that's retired. The one thing that helped a lot of goalies get an extra year in the minors was that 04-05 lockout. Look at how many goalies played an extra year in the minor leagues there that had really long careers off of that as a springboard.
Last night, pretty good effort from Dustin Wolf in Calgary. And is he one of those guys that you're talking about that got to just cook a little bit more in the minors?
I yes and no, because he was so dominant in the minors. I thought you had to take him out. So I didn't disagree with that, but pretty tough in a rebuilding team now without the safety net of having the older guy, Markstrom, with him and coming up in an apprenticeship. But yeah. By the same token, Kyper, I mean, that guy's one of the fastest goalies I've ever seen. Like, I'm looking at speed east to west right now. Blomqvist to me still is, yes, he could have used a little more time in the minors, but he's got NHL speed. And I would put Dustin Wolf right at the top of that list. Like, he's fast. And what are we talking about? We're talking about a lot of movement east to west nowadays. Goalies have to be able to move. It's almost like saying, what is required 100% of the time to make a save? Positioning. And you need positioning. And if you can't move, and that means tracking player movement or a pass, then you're never going to be there. And if you're not there, 100 pucks out of 100 are going to go in. And I think that it's a matter of maintaining angle, depth, and squareness. You need those three elements to be able to play goal right now in the NHL. And the guys that are killing it, they're achieving that every night on every sequence.
So you're talking about your New York Ranger team trying to figure them out. And in some ways, it's never a curse. But because you have excellent goaltending, it's like if your parents have money. Whenever you keep losing your job, okay, they prop you up, whatever. You can sleep in the basement, you get by. But they can play, vanilla, nondescript, lackadaisical hockey, but they got Shesterkin versus a team like Pittsburgh or others. They get their ass kicked if they don't have the goaltending. So in some ways, can it be a mixed blessing when you're trying to figure out the other parts of a team?
It's difficult, Gord, and I'm with you on that, because you're still trying to figure out, why aren't we consistent? Like, if you watch New York right now, they're just not consistent in the same game. Forget about game to game, but in the same game. And here's the thing that I think is rather funny and perplexing. If you realize that east to west offense is the most valuable way to score, then it's perplexing to me that the Rangers don't know that they need to defend against that as well, because they are the second best team in the NHL offensively east to west, but they are the worst at allowing east to west. So the forwards know it's valuable, but don't counter and play defense the right way. Do you know what really aggravates me defending right now, fellas, is guys taking their stick and bringing it to their side and trying to play goalie. And in some cases, it's to the side down, so they're trying to hold a lane. And in some cases, it's side in front. But what that is it's not Jacques Lemaire hockey. It's not Larry Robinson hockey. It's not Scott Stevens and Ken Danico, the way those guys have told me that you need to check with your feet, be fast in the D zone, stay on your feet, stick on puck. And if you do that, you're rushing people. And right now, I think a big reason why there is a lot of east to west in the game is because the lanes are there. And I'm watching the Ranger defensemen and their stick details. They're not like those guys that I just mentioned. You need stick on puck in the D zone. And one of the drills I do when I'm on the ice coaching guys, goalie coaching, is if I have a goalie that isn't quite ready for time and space, I'm always in the lane. I'm putting my stick in places so that he knows where the release is going to come from. So if my stick is present as a coach, it's going to make that drill easier on your goalie and help him develop. And then when he's really good at that, you can take your stick away and let him experience some time and space. But that's how difficult time and space is. Time and space, it's feet that you have to move your angle in your net, because players can change their release points at any point. And I think that understanding that time and space in the D zone needs to be eliminated. You know why I think Washington's so good right now, guys? That's Carbery's message. It is be fast, kill the play as soon as possible, good sticks. Check out how many goals they've scored recently where they have all five leaning in because it's automatic. They're reading off each other's. They've got great sticks and they're going. And I feel like they're the most connected team in the offensive zone right now. Watching them, I'm like envious. And I saw them last year when they were terrible in the first round of the playoffs against the Rangers. And they've just taken a 180 for me.
Couple of players I want to get to in this segment, but we'll start with Ovechkin first. We just spoke to Spencer in our earlier segment. He was outstanding. Please download it if you didn't catch it live. But Ovechkin, and whether or not you believe that there is some data that might suggest that this record will be broken as early as March.
Yeah, so one thing I fell into was at the same time, because you guys have talked on the show in this past week about Bedard, I found myself looking at time and space chances for Ovechkin. When is Ovechkin the best? When he's got a little room out there, right? And he's getting his one-timer off. What do you need to get a one-timer off or to have a quick release that's effective? You need a little space. Well, Ovi's got 6 goals on 22 chances where he's had that time and space. The way that we qualify time and space as a company, guys, is that if there's a stick length away and there's nobody there, you got time and space.
Yeah.
So he's had 22 of those chances. He scored 6 times. So the show that I was listening to, Kyper, was when you guys were discussing that Bedard's getting closed off and everybody's able to stay on him because he's the only threat. He's actually not done that bad. He's had 20 time and space chances, but he's only scored twice. Just hasn't finished. And so he's not getting the benefit of the goals the way that Ovechkin is, but he's still getting his looks. But my goodness, I watched that game the other night, Kyper, against Minnesota. He's got a 1-on-4 with 7 minutes to go. and he turns the puck over at the offensive blue line. It goes the other way. Mrazek's got to make a 2-on-1 save. And then with 4 minutes left, he's got to fly by at the point. He's outside the zone when his man scores from the slot. I'm like, the kid, I agree. Like, it's a little too much for the kid right now. He doesn't have enough support, whether it's top to bottom support. But he is getting his looks, but he's also getting the benefit of getting on the ice.
Yeah,
more than he deserves.
That 15-goal pace is going to get up there. I mean, he's going to finish with a decent number. It might not be one that you link to having a great year, but you forget how young he is too.
Ovi's producing though, boys. That's the message. Ovi is getting on the board with chances. At this point last year, he was ice cold, and he's all over the board right now. I see him to continue scoring.
So Mike Sullivan, before the game last night, talked about the three, not ideal having the 3 goalies, but it'll play itself out. And right now it looks like they have no goalies instead of 3, whatever in Pittsburgh as far, and I'm curious statistically about, like, first of all, they got to figure a different style to play because they're not going to fire the coach. They can't go young all of a sudden. They can't do what Calgary did last year during midstream. So they got to figure some stuff out. But goaltending wise, let's how bad are the numbers beyond 6 goals in the first period last night, and just in general, Tristan Jarry trying to find himself, and if just one of the guys grabs it, they're fine. Would that be the case?
Right. It is. I'll start with Blomqvist because I think he's a top 10 goalie statistically right now. He's off to a really good start. I watched his first game against Detroit, and I saw it in the first 5 minutes. I'm like, this kid's good. He can move. He can play. And he needs the support. It's one of the toughest places to play, Gord, playing for the Penguins in net right now. It's just the way it is. Statistically, it is. It's the Rangers that give up the most east to west, and then Pittsburgh. And in the top 10, I didn't finish my earlier point, which is everybody in the top 10, east to west against, in the bottom 10, non-playoff teams with the exception of the Rangers across the street here. That's it. You can't win when you give it up that way. And I think the reason why you can't win, it's not just because the chance itself is difficult. It's because it feeds into everything else that you're doing. And you can imagine being in Tristan Jarry's skates where he's trying to come out for a shot and he's saying, well, where are my options right now? I can't really tell. The sticks aren't great. I don't know who's got lanes. I'm going to back up a little bit here. And now there's more space in the net. And you can aim big and be confident when you're taking your shot on them because there's more room. And you're in your head a little bit because you're thinking about, is the pass coming or is it a shot? And what's my role? Back to your role. What's my role? And I think Pittsburgh, they get enough on the offensive side of the puck. They're a lot like the Rangers too. They have to defend better, and they have to commit to it now because it's getting late quick.
Valley, if Pittsburgh's the hardest team to goaltend for, who's the easiest? Is it Hellebuck in Winnipeg with a goal differential of what, 30?
They used to say Boston.
Right? 38, 36?
Yeah, like the answer to this one, Kyper. So the easiest place to play is Winnipeg. So what we do is we take away all the shots from the neutral zone, Gord, all the shots from the neutral zone, all the fluff from the outside, and we just look at scoring chances, the difficulty of them, and then how many you face. And the easiest environment, it's a .905 save percentage environment for Hellebuck and Comrie. So as a tandem, they have the easiest environment. The second, well, I'll say this, the easiest environment for a starting goalie, you'll be surprised. This year, it's Linus Ullmark with a .907. In the games that he's played, he's actually had a very easy environment. And that's why, and we've been talking a lot on this show, Kyper and I, with Bourne, Gord, about why I think Ottawa gets in over Boston this year. And if Ullmark can just keep it together and be willing to play every game that he's asked, they get in. But they need him to be a rock there. His environment is very favorable to getting into the playoffs.
Well, it's .917. Kyper has a way easier environment when I'm here compared to .902 when Justin's here. So that's another little known stat on the media side. The Toronto Maple Leafs tomorrow are playing Washington. Washington, I believe, is the only two with the goaltenders that it used to be more common, right? That they catch with the quote wrong glove. And I mean, is there a statistical thing about forwards or shooters saying, holy crap, I don't like it. My numbers go down when I have goaltenders with the opposite situation. Is there anything to that or not?
I think there's definitely something to it. And I'll share this with you. When I was practicing, one of the most difficult aspects about being a backup goaltender was that you get so used to your teammates. And so I know Ryan Callahan, when he's coming down the wing, he's going low blocker. Brendan Shanahan's a righty. He likes to come over the blue line and go back same side. And he would try and go high glove on me. But I get to know the rhythm and routine of where they want to shoot. And I would say to a Brandon Dubinsky or a Callahan, I'd be like, listen, I know you're going low blocker. Can you just change it up? Like, I'm trying to just, get out of my own head a little bit here and just focus on the puck and make some saves live. And they would say to me, no, Valley, I need to shoot my shot because I'm going to take that shot when I get that chance in a game. And it needs to be sharp. So now I'm thinking to myself, all right, so now you're going against a righty goalie. How's that looking? How's your low blocker, Callie? Now you're shooting low glove all day. And I always wonder about that because the hardest part about being a backup, in my opinion, is turning that mechanism off in your head because you can't be seeing live shots for the first time when the puck drops at a game. And that's the hard part. And I think you know what it is, Gord? When you change teams as a goalie, for the first 2 weeks, you get abused. And then after that, you take over because you learn everybody's shots.
Great stuff, Ali, man. As always, like shot out of a cannon and 25 minutes of nothing but
and
solid
boys, you
info.
wouldn't believe how tight my time is to get across the street and get on the bridge.
Go, buddy.
Paula McHale is our producer. It's Butch Goring's wife. And she's like, Val, you better be there at 5:30. And I'm looking at the clock right now. And it's 5:26. I got to run,
Go, my
boys.
friend. Go. Thanks for doing this. That is Steve Valiquette.
Good night, fellas.
He's got the 4-minute mile now.
Every
5:26 to 5:30.
Tuesday, the amount of information is off the
great.
charts.
And he explains it well. It's not like you kind of scratch your head
it's
more.
not.
That's key. That's the whole thing, the ability to convey it.
Now I feel guilty. Just tell me, Valley. I'll tell you guys. I had no idea you had to be over by 5:30. Hopefully there's...
Yeah, we got to learn to communicate more, Valley. Okay.
Yeah,
That's,
I gotta text Valley and be like,
Valley for Dummies. That's what our segment should be called. And we're 3 of them.
I like that Dustin Wolf. He's an enjoyable goalie to watch.
He got a hell of a compliment out of Valley as one of the fastest goalies he's ever seen.
He's small though, right? Dustin Wolf, like he's
Yeah.
not a very big guy, and there's
No.
not a ton of small goalies
No.
left.
Yeah.
Saros comes to mind. He comes to mind. I like watching him
Yeah.
play a lot.
Well, he's saying these guys need enough games in the American Hockey League. He's talking in general.
Yeah.
This guy's the AHL goalie of the year twice, right?
Yeah.
What else can he do, right? What else can he do? So he certainly, and the good part is Vladar's playing well too, so he can be a tandem right now. He doesn't have to be the guy in the NHL.
Logan Thompson, who catches with that right hand, 7-0 in Washington. No goalie has ever gotten 7-0 out of Washington before.
Wow.
I hate the wrong-handed goalie. Anytime you play against a
I
right-handed
can't
goalie,
shoot blocker side. It feels weird to me to shoot on a right-handed goalie. Blocker side, I'm like, I don't
wonder
think
why
I've
there's so
ever
few.
scored on that side.
I wonder why there's so few, because it should be the same as, although it used to be everyone shot left, and now a lot of people shoot right.
Yeah.
Remember that for, like, it just seemed everyone did, and
Yeah, I always thought it was like Paul Matier was the first one I remember as a kid.
yeah.
Catching with that hand. And I have this weird thing where every player I've ever played with or against, I can remember what they shoot left or right.
Right.
Even like goalies, right? It's just, when a guy's catching right is the first, it's just embedded in your head forever.
we went to play golf at Coppenwood with Brad May and his dad, Ken, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And Kyper, we were sitting at the table having a beer, and Kipper's like, oh, I used to play beer league with that guy. Yeah, he shoots right. I'm like,
wow.
how the hell?
And then
It's like, how the hell do you remember that?
this is like 25 years ago in a beer league, and the guy's at the
And you
tournament.
remember what he shoots.
And I'm like,
Wow.
hey, Jonesy, how are you? Hey, you shot right, did you? Yeah, I did shoot right. I said, see, guys?
Blew my mind.
It's a weird thing.
I couldn't tell you what anyone shoots on my beer league team. Maybe that says more about the beer. Anyways, game time?
Game time, baby.
All right, it's game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Well, it's the biggest game of the year, as Kipper said here, the Battle of Ontario. And I know that
As
we're not
Doug
supposed
McLean says, huge.
We're not supposed to talk about the Leafs in the National Hour, but I'm going to go ahead and make a pick tonight on the Leafs game. And I'm going to go with a Ridley Gregg anytime goal against the
Cross-check.
Toronto Maple Leafs. No,
A cross check.
maybe I don't know if it'll be a slap shot into an empty net. I don't know if it'll be a goal with a goalie in the net. but Ridley Gregg will get a goal tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs for a little bit of revenge. A couple of the other games I'm looking at, Canadian teams in action. Vancouver and Calgary. We'll talk about that a little bit later after the break. Vancouver's a big favorite in that one. Minus 230, Flames in the second half of back-to-back. And the New York Islanders are in Edmonton for a rematch of what year final? How many times did they play in the final? You guys know that a little better than me. It's minus 230 for the Edmonton Oilers. The New York Islanders are plus 190. So that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's ever ordinary at Bet365. Plus 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. How many times did they play in the final, those two teams?
I think just
once?
Twice.
Twice or once?
They lost to them, and they taught them the lesson, right? And then did they beat the Islanders? I think they beat the Islanders the next year.
I can't remember.
Of the
I
first of their
wasn't
four
alive.
Stanley Cups. I should know that.
I don't know what I had for breakfast today.
Actually, little known thing,
Roger.
Roger Nielsen got brought in by the Oilers to look at video.
Really?
Just in the playoffs, because he got, and specifically break down the opposition for their first Stanley Cup. So Coley Campbell paid tribute to Roger last night, and I'll never miss an opportunity for someone to pay tribute to Raj.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. We got 7 games on tap, including the Flames and the Vancouver Canucks. Plus, we'll talk about Jeremy Roenick, his speech last night at the Hockey Hall of Fame induction. Plenty more when we return to Real Kyper and, excuse me,
and Bourne.
and Stellick. This hour, Real Kyper and Bourne, brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Gord, Stellick, Sammy McKee, closing in on our show. That will lead to 7 games on tap, including Calgary and the Vancouver Canucks. Canucks struggling at home. Calgary really good on the road. Anything going to give tonight, Gord?
Well, a couple of things. One is you got to like what we commended Spencer Carbery and the Washington Capitals for kind of doing a retool on the fly last year. Calgary's done it to a certain degree as well. They, started last year, things went south, and it looks like they don't have to take as much of a dip as they thought. Like Vancouver, okay, EP missing. Brock Besser now out. I know that's just been a couple of games or a game so far, and no Thatcher Demko, and they've been playing great, And again, I was. Steve Valiquette wasn't over the top about Kevin Lankinen, who's going to get the start tonight, but just he has really stopped the bleeding in goal.
Yeah.
And our buddy Elliot Freeman, picking Quinn Hughes to win the Hart kind of raised a lot of eyebrows. I liked it, but he's been a real key cog that way. So, I don't like. For me, the jury's still out on both teams, or had been at the start of the season. I wasn't knocking Vancouver, but we saw last year New Jersey and Seattle took steps back after having positive playoff experiences, and I was just saying. Vancouver has to prove they're not that kind of team either. And so far, despite some adversity, they've been doing it.
Yeah, they signed Kevin Lankinen in September.
Yeah, that was a late one.
He's got a 905 for them, 261. He's making league minimum. Like that's pretty. It's league average goal, above league average goaltending for them.
And a real nice win against an LA team that's been coming on as well for Calgary.
Oh yeah. No, that LA King team's been kind of quiet. Started with a bunch of road games because they're renovating their home, their home arena, and then Sammy learning a new system under Jim Hiller. He's not totally new, but I mean they played that 1-3-1. It was they're doing a bit of a switch now, and they're there. They're there in the top 4. So Calgary's win last night, and Jonathan Huberdeau getting a goal. I mean, we always, just can he find it? Can he blossom? Can he find that? Because everyone affixes that number, what you make in salary, and he's come, nowhere near yet to get that like he did with the Florida Panthers a few years ago.
Where does that go long term?
Jonathan Huberdeau?
Probably nowhere.
Well, not looking good right now. So those contracts don't go away. So I don't know. What you hope, but then I don't.
Even if you and nothing's going to happen probably for another year or two, but eventually, if you do feel like you can move off of it, that number is so huge at 10.5 that even if you ate $3 or $4 million.
Well, Pierre-Luc Dubois may be a bit of an example that Washington, took. If you find a buyer, it might be the right scenario. I don't know. It's a strange one, Kyper. Like you played on a few teams. I don't mean that. I just mean about sometimes it doesn't work out. Everyone just assumes, okay, Sam's got traded. He's going to play the same for the Minnesota Wild like he is for the New York Islanders. And then they go, well, he's halfway. The season's half over. What the hell's with Sam McKee? And you've had that. I've certainly had it in work situations, just it goes well or doesn't go well. And you're kind of in Calgary, the clock has seemingly struck 12 for Jonathan Huberdeau, and you keep trying to push it back and take another crack at it, or do you accept it's a bad contract and he'll fill a certain role and be overpaid in a cap world?
Yeah, I think he's just going to be over. Well, the cap's going up, so maybe he'll be less overpaid.
Yeah.
Silver lining.
I do buy into the philosophy that there's no untradeable contract. It's just a matter of working out the numbers.
Yep.
And if sometimes you need to do something just for the sake of looking different, if the numbers match up, then sometimes deals happen that you make a trade for the sake of making a trade.
Yep.
If it all balances out on the money side.
Erik Karlsson to Pittsburgh, Brent Burns to Dallas. San Jose having contracts that are immovable and, hurdle in some degree to Vegas. Then all of a sudden you get creative and, because you're right, it's a sexy acquisition. Like people said, wow, Erik Karlsson coming, that's great. Brent Burns coming, that's great. Hurdle coming. Those are sexy looking acquisitions, but on the business side, there's a deeper dive that needs to be looked at, but sometimes the sexiness overwhelms. So, the team acquiring it. And that's maybe what Calgary can hope what happens with Jonathan Huberdeau.
I bet you Pittsburgh was wishing that Karlsson was actually unmovable.
Well, there's a
imagine that had happened here. Oh, my God.
Well, a lot of redos in life we'd like to do as well, so it just doesn't work that way.
Oh, my God.
Now, did you stick around right through the Hall of Fame last night to get to Jeremy Roenick, which I thought who was on the committee last night really did a nice job for no other reason is that they left Jeremy Roenick last.
So I wonder, was he alphabetically last? Because they tend to go alphabetical.
No, I believe that they thought
I guess Shea Weber.
Everybody was going to stick around.
Okay.
Not to disrespect any other speakers.
They get introduced to the press conference in alphabetical, but you're right. Shea Weber would have been last, so good move. You're 100% right.
Not to disrespect anyone else that spoke last night, but come on.
I stuck around
Jeremy
for it.
Roenick.
I didn't go to the party like you did. You were out there clubbing until 2 in the morning.
I was.
But I did see the show.
I think the feeling was that if JR was going to burn the whole house down
he's the Kardashian. He's the Kardashian
with his speech.
Yeah.
At least everybody else would have gone by then, and then we could just kind of look for the screaming out of the exits.
Yes, people were walking to the exit. But it's not like they're missing anybody else.
It didn't happen, but very JR, first of all, very emotional, right?
Very
Speaks
genuine.
from the heart.
Yeah.
And, he didn't disappoint anybody last night.
Yeah, well, he speaks from the heart, and that's why it took him 12 years. And that doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it right, but and he was candid about how pissed off he was that it took him 12 years and how it shouldn't.
And the mistakes that he made and uttering, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's...
But how about the Doug Wilson? I don't know which clip you're playing, so I don't want to walk on it.
No.
But I never knew the Doug Wilson story. Is that what we're playing?
We're not playing.
Oh, we're going to play clip.
No,
Okay.
we're not.
No.
I didn't know that part about everybody in life. That's what I like about the speeches, because everybody out there can relate to something non-hockey. And when you're low and all of a sudden a friend offers that support. Now, they can't offer you a job like Doug Wilson did with the San Jose Sharks, but somebody that when you're down, when everyone's vacating you, comes in your corner a big way. That's something our friend Brian Burke is very good at. Brian Burke, when you get kicked, Brian Burke's a good guy. I was surprised. Ken Hitchcock said that. He had no professional relationship with Brian Burke, but when he got fired, he said Brian called him every day. This is a number of years ago.
Oh, listen, for 98%, the phone stops ringing the moment you're gone.
Oh, boy.
I experienced it.
Yeah. It's and then you learn there's more to life than being a New York Ranger or Toronto Maple, working for the Leafs and all that. If it defines you, that's sad. But you do get caught up and you forget that every time, Gord Stellick's on the line, or Nick Kypreos on the line, got to take it. And then 5 years later, he's looking for a job. He's looking for a job. Just tell him I'm out.
I'm busy.
That's right. And for him, that Doug Wilson story was, I remember a guy, I was a huge Dallas Cowboy fan, and about a guy named Charlie Waters talked about his his son had died with one of those sudden death things, perfectly healthy. Was about 18 or 19 and kind of wits end. And Roger Staubach said, hey, come on back to Dallas. You're really popular here, and I can set you up. He's got a big real estate company, and guy comes back, and it turns his life around. Just something about you're walking now aimlessly, you don't know what, and someone comes through like that. And, Doug Wilson, who I don't know well, but that spoke volumes, what he did for Jeremy Roenick and the way Jeremy articulated the whole thing. And it wasn't just a hockey thing. He basically saved his life. Like he says, almost like that song, someone saved my life today.
Literally, he said last
100%.
night.
Yeah. Great story.
And he gets to play with the Sharks, and he scores his 500th goal with the Sharks, obviously, which is the weirdest milestone goal of all time. You remember the goal? Where it's I
didn't remember he played for the Sharks.
He comes in, I sent a tweet out with the video earlier today. He comes in over the red line, and he goes, he just makes a dump in, and it hits the stanchion, and it shoots straight into the crease, but it doesn't go in. But then Alex Auld, who's the goalie for the Coyotes at the time, tries to handle it, and he pokes it in over his own goal line for his 500th goal. And he shoots it in from the broadcast. It was panging on the broadcast. He said he didn't want to score it into an empty net, but I'm not sure that was better. It's really good. It's really good.
Don't you think Sammy should get out more?
Why? I just remember these things. I remember these things.
That's good.
I remember these things. But I should get out more. You're right. I spent a lot of time at home.
Last night it was interesting to be there last night and then start watching some of the Montreal Canadiens current players come in out of a late win against the Buffalo Sabres. So
bus up from Buffalo, very classy.
Very classy.
And Carey Price, but fighting off autograph seekers. He was getting a little spirited. He was one of the last guys in there.
Yeah.
And they got some autograph guys that are pretty belligerent in that. And him making it as well.
And listen, I mean, I watched a good portion of the last part of the game, and it was anyone's game in the third period. They found a way to win, and they desperately needed it, Montreal. Yeah. So not the most reassuring 7-5 win, but something that maybe they can just build on, because it was a tough weekend losing to Toronto.
Well, and Buffalo, again, they continue. Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit. If Buffalo would have won, they would have been in the playoffs as of today. Trying to punch through to get there. But I got to tell you, and, Kyper being with the team in that, and Sammy, just about that, okay, when it's going horrible, and it's not going well at all, Montreal. So they were going to come regardless, which was very classy. You get that win.
Oh, yeah.
That just, all, and even Barry Trotz is there, because Shea Weber and David Poyle are going in. The fact you beat Utah on Saturday, they get a point losing last night, but that, anyway, just that, that makes all, you can breathe a little bit. Because before it's stifling, it's like you got this kind of odor around you about just, I don't even want what to say to them. So at least, I was happy in that sense. I don't really cheer for teams per se, but if there's something like that going on, I like them having to come, because I know what that's like. You get, throw me a bone, so get me a W. So, okay, the team party is a little bit better spirits, for example.
So you were around JR after his speech. Did you get a sense of relief after he was?
Oh, like the old 1,000-pound gorilla off his back.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. The other one, too, is he's used the word when we had him on the show on Thursday, I believe, that there's a sense of validation, right? And, being around Eric Lindros, too, I know what that does for how you feel about yourself and how you feel like you're perceived. It is the cherry on top, right? It's not a Stanley Cup, but it's got to be the second greatest feeling in the world outside of being a champion, to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, and how it can change your life and the way you feel about yourself. So
if you win as a team, you have the Stanley Cup ring, which you have one of them. So that's a great thing. Otherwise, if you sign your autograph, you don't, Gord Stellick, a Hart Trophy winner, a Lady Byng winner, second team All-Star. How they sign it now is HHOF and your year. Hockey, that's where they all, Daryl Sittler, whatever the year is. So that is that's your mark now. That's your indelible mark. And people look and they go, okay, I understand. That's special. Yeah. And that's not something you're not bragging. Yep. It's something that it's sort of a intangible yet tangible thing. So it's neat. And that's where it's a wonderful weekend, because I get to do a few things behind the scenes. and they're all sitting like here, and you never get that, Kippy. I mean, first of all, when they're active players, different, but just letting their guard down and just chat.
I do sign 94 Cup.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't you?
I'm like, it's just like, it's the greatest feeling in the world, putting those numbers down beside your signature. And if I don't do it, people will say, can you put that down? Especially if I signed a hockey card, a Ranger hockey card, because you just add 94 Cup. And
well, it's like I signed, like, claim Brad Marsh in the waiver draft. It takes a while for
Gord, Stellick, Dante's Fiesta.
Oops, get the sauce off.
Listen, you look at the Atlantis.
It's Gord, Stellick.
What is that, Derek? Did you computerize that? That's not me. I never said that
fresh
before.
off their Dante's Fiesta with extra peppers. It's Gord, Stellick.
That Fiesta had extra everything.
I think that was from when Gordo filled in one time.
You mentioned Buffalo at 7 and 8, Detroit at 6 and 7, but there's still a sense that, if we're not talking about a team that looks like they're going to hang in there, that there could be some changes. There could be, like we talk about Boston. Is Montgomery in trouble? Is Lalonde in a scenario where he feels he's got the security now to keep going on with Detroit? Like, how do you see those teams moving from week to week?
Well, first of all, I know Coley Campbell, who talks to everybody kind of about different things, and was talking to me weeks ago about this coaches meeting. It got moved because of the Goodrow tragedy, right? But they meet with the NHL, and they kind of have a fun one, and then they go out for a few beers. And he said they took a group picture last year. What is it? 14 of them are gone. Like, imagine that. Like last year, the start of last season. So the carnage of head coaches in the NHL is unbelievable. So when you're talking, I don't know what particular general managers or presidents or decision makers feel, but it certainly shows the knee-jerk reaction to fire a coach has never been more prevalent. So so the other ones are noticed, and I think Jim Montgomery definitely, obviously, is the one that seems to be the most aware of it, most acute, and is going to stay on top of things. So but if it's the Habs again, then which of the why would anyone get fired in Toronto? Well, even Toronto, Boston, Tampa Bay, and Florida, and then on the other side. What do you do again in Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit? Did you buy that? Okay, just one more year, we'll get our fans to buy into it. I don't know. That's going to be their problem. That's why you mentioned tonight, and I think a very valid comment about Ottawa can make a bit of a statement tonight because they want to get back to being in the playoffs and also the Battle of Ontario, because this Toronto team has dined on Ottawa in the playoffs when Ottawa was the better team. And then in the regular season, when Toronto's been just a lot of little things in that respect.
7 games on tap, including Boston at St. Louis, and
they lost 8-1 to Washington, right? And Ottawa beat Boston, and So I mean, I don't know what a statement game. St. Louis, funny team, huh? Funny team. Yeah. They've had some big wins and they've had some big losses.
At some point, Boston's going to have to show that the free agent pickups and the money committed to a guy like Zadorov has to start paying off. Mm-hmm. And the commitment to Swayman.
Got to stop taking so many penalties. Zadorov takes a penalty every game.
Well, something Montgomery said, right? Just about they have to get more discipline in general. Absolutely.
All right, just like that, 2 hours over, Gordo.
I'm ready for 4. Come on, this is nothing.
Buddy, you worked already this morning.
All Gordo does is work.
I'm like the Marines. I've done more by 9 a.m. than most people have done all day.
He also talked to Valley twice today.
And we are lucky for it. Our thanks to Spencer Carbery in our Leaf Edition hour. And then Steve Valiquette at the top of the hour. Great 2 hours with you, buddy.
Great, Kyper.
Really appreciate
Love
you
it.
always coming
Thanks,
in.
Sammy.
Have a great night, everybody. We're back tomorrow.